Episode 22 of Writer's Block. This thing pops up right over my face at the start of the episode. Can't help it. But, all right, I want to start with this episode by saying I wish the world was flat.
What the fuck? Okay.
Daylight savings is like, or daylight savings ends or starts or whatever in like 2 days, and we're going to get fucked. Like, people watching this show don't realize it. Like, they realize how bad I am with like the technical difficulties. But I would legitimately think that like we'd get down to like 0 views per episode if they knew how incompetent we were in terms of the time zone issue, or just me.
Yeah. Like,
it's gotten to the point where like I just messaged Max like, "What time is it at your place right now?" I can't like figure this shit out. Like, I think he's in some weird like zone where like they don't acknowledge the daylight savings or something. For some reason, it doesn't like work.
I don't know, man.
But like for some, we have it like fixed right now. Like right now, we didn't fuck it up, but it's coming up.
The way to do it, I enjoy the way of doing it, which is just like, we are recording in 3 hours, and I'm just like, yes, nice.
This is that's the only reliable way we found. But I was going to talk about the major, but Sam just, crawled into this call. It was like, can we talk about other things? So yeah, all right.
No, we can talk about that. I'm just saying.
No. Let's all stop the show.
Hey, here's something I was wondering.
Yes. Oh, okay.
This is not going to happen. I just thought it was interesting. Sue me. I was thinking, should ENCE have picked up Sunny? That's a thing I was thinking about that we could have discussed.
For who?
Are you out of your fucking mind, Sam? Do you really want that? So, dude, let me just go through my notes and just throw these out the window. Jesus Christ, man! Are you out of your mind?
I mean, I thought that was an interesting topic that we could have talked
for sure.
when we were talking, but not necessarily at the beginning of the show. We could also.
I opened up space. I opened up space for you.
Do you know how jam-packed this schedule is, Sam? We have so much to get through, and you want to talk about fucking Sunny? Dude, all right. Hey. Do you know what? Ariel, Sunny. Swap them. Next topic. Go.
Yeah, we can talk about this later. I just thought that was an interesting thing to talk about because HLTV Confirmed had an entire segment about this, and I thought that I had definitely thoughts.
Don't know what website you're talking about. Please use its proper name.
Proper name. All right. That website that shall not be named.
Okay.
On the other one. Confirmed. Yeah. Okay. So we can talk about that later.
Yeah. All right. No. We want to talk. I want to talk about ENCE in this episode because they're sort of the big ticket item. I'm not an ENCE main. I'm more of a Fox, or Jigglypuff person. No. Haven't been focusing much on ENCE, so I've been trying to play catch up a little bit. Watching their games a lot today. Sort of cramming last minute for the podcast. Okay, here's.
Can I just say real quick?
Yes.
That how I have a propensity to just watch like dumb teams and then learn a lot about them and then write articles about them in order to get money. This is finally like at the major, it all paid off, dude. It all paid off. Do you know why it paid off? Because fucking ENCE
and Renegades,
the fucking player and Renegades, dude. And I was literally just here in Brisbane. I wasn't even looking at the VODs, just like going, oh yeah, come on, babes. Just like so good, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a good second interlude from Max. Okay, but. All right, here's a misconception about ENCE. Or here's, like, my perception isn't aligning with reality, so I assume that the reality, or everyone else on the internet is wrong. I think that I just seen them described as being a very tactical team a lot, and I didn't quite get that. I actually got a shade. I know this is sort of cliche, but I actually got a shade of Cloud9. I mean, like, the stories are similar, but like if you look at Train, which was their most played map, like their home map or whatever, the map they always want to pick first in a best of 1 or best of 3. It's just like a lot of fast plays outside. Like there's a variation of fast plays outside. Like at Mirage, like they'll switch it up on their hits, but I think they're like a team has maybe a more fundamental strength. Like they don't mess up rounds. or like they won't like do something stupid. They're not like Navi where it's just like, what the fuck is that we're doing? Like, why would Zeus go there? That just never comes into my brain. But it never like it's never to me like, oh well, that was just a sick execute, or like that was a great rotation. It's more like, oh okay, they didn't mess that up. They like have a plan and they just like go for it and it's fine.
I think that that's I think that very much depends on what you watched. Like if you watched them at the major playoffs, I haven't like done the empirical verification here, but I get a sense that you get a different ENCE from the one that you've got previous lens, or probably even the major qualifier. I feel like they're always a pretty explosive team, especially because of Alexi P.
All right, Sam, I'm going to stop you 1 second. I'm going to stop the call and then restart it because you're robot mode.
Oh, okay.
Hold
Dang.
on. Okay, we good? Talk, Sam?
I don't know, man. Are we?
Yes. Are we good?
Yes, we are good. Okay. So what were you saying?
I was just saying that they've always been relatively explosive because of Alexi P and also Ariel, like who's their main entry, but like kind of Dionysian character in that team. But I definitely think that they were much more slow paced, much more methodical with their map control, generally speaking, than they were here in the major playoffs. I think that like actually Sponge said that they were like panicking and that they played like crazy and nonsensically. He's speaking about X7 in particular, was just doing random dumb shit, and sometimes it worked. I didn't necessarily get that vibe in general, but I do think that they were playing in sort of a fuck it way, where they were like, maybe this will work, who knows? And so in that sense, I think that what made ENCE successful in that major playoff was different from what made them successful, generally speaking, or a lot less successful, but generally a decent team. So I think that watching those major playoffs, you're getting a different vibe than you would be if you had watched a bunch of other things. And I think the stereotype of them as a tactical team stems from their past, not what happened in that.
No, see this is exactly what I was wondering, because I haven't watched all their games. Like I was saying, I'm not super focused on ENCE, so that was my impression in the playoffs. Max, are you still here? We're having a little internet issues.
Oh no.
Right,
yeah, I'm still here.
So
still here.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Do you agree with me?
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, Max, do you agree with me?
I think for sure. Well, it's one of those things where it's always relative to the people they're playing against as well. I think ENCE are a very composed team, and I think they're a very, as Scott was saying, like a fundamentally like robust team. I would say they have a very, very good cohesive understanding of a lot of the important building blocks of just Counter-Strike in general. And I think when you put them against teams that just play stupid, which, you know, like if you, like for example, the Vega Squadron best of 5 at Star Wars series, you know, ENCE look like fucking Astralis just because, you know, they're playing Vega Squadron. So I think given they are the sort of kings of the tier 2 is how I see them, like from 10 below, they reign supreme. I think relative to that level of competition, they do look very tactical. I think they do look very structured, but I think the very second you put them up against someone like Liquid, like Navi, I think that they just look like a team that doesn't make mistakes rather than a team that has a deep book of tactics. Specifically about like the difference between ENCE in the group stage and the playoffs, I don't know. I don't know if I could confidently say that they looked totally different. I think it was just more so the caliber of opposition they played against caused them to look different. I don't know if they necessarily approached the game differently though.
That's also possible.
Well, it's also very different. Like teams are playing with like Liquid. You know, I always say this when I talk about Liquid, but they have a very proactive CT side. It's all about sort of like mid-round aggressions onto the opposing side. I think when I was watching an Elma Putty video a little bit ago, and you know he made note of that when he was talking about their comeback versus Liquid on Inferno. A lot. It's sort of like at some point that ENCE just like, okay, well, let's just default. Like let's just let Liquid run into us, and we'll try to take some picks. But versus Navi, I think it's more okay. Like sometimes we can just like pick off Zeus on B on Mirage, or like we'll wait for Edward or Zeus to make some dumbass play. Like, you know, it's sort of like who they're facing does change it, but I mean, generally I thought my impression just from watching the playoff games mostly was that, yeah, no, I didn't seem like, oh, well, this is just a brilliant execute. It's just like they have a couple variations, fast-paced attacks. But
well, I think ENCE are just a very composed team in general. And when a tactical team plays well, that's like the feel you get from them. And so I don't necessarily think that because ENCE are composed, they are a tactical side, but I think most successful tactical sides need to be composed. So I know it's like one of those things.
Yeah, no, I definitely was impressed with their sort of composure. Like, I don't know, maybe it's that sort of like Finnish like stereotype.
It 100% is. It 100% is. Like, there's no further analysis required. It's 100% a Finnish thing.
See, but it's interesting that you guys say that because, I mean, ENCE has a reputation for choking, right? They've played a lot of close games where they lost out in the end. So at this tournament, they made a lot of comebacks and looked really sick coming back. But generally, that is against the trend with ENCE. I mean, at least by reputation.
What's the reputation? I'm not familiar with that.
The reputation is the same as Liquids, that they run up the scoreboard and then choke. And sometimes they win, but they choke up the lead, or sometimes they lose because they choked up a lead. This happened a lot to ENCE. Because
I think it's more so, I can definitely see how like individuals choke, but I think I know, like for example, in my head, Ariel is a player who I would definitely characterize the way you're characterizing, but I don't know if that like necessarily applies to ENCE as a team as a whole.
I'm just like, this is what happened in their results.
Yeah.
Whether that's, who knows what the cause of that is. It might be Ariel. It's definitely one of them, but it might be just because they rely too much on their entries. But for whatever reason, it is weird. Like, this is just one other thing which is a trend with ENCE in these playoffs, that this is just like the complete opposite of what they normally do, which is normally.
When you think about like Star Series, I mean, they had that full 5-map best like grand final against Vega, where they won 3-2. And in general, at Star Series, I thought that they will prove to be a side that was like pretty, like I keep going back to the word, but composed. And I thought they were like a pretty strong team with a decent amount of tenacity and endurance to get through that many best of threes. Because I think they, let me get it up. But here we go. So they had like a full best of 3 against Big, where they went to a double overtime.
They also played best of 3s in the challenger stage too. So it was like,
so I don't know.
About 7 best of 3s? Or no, wait, 3, 6, 8 best of 3s, I think. So I think they actually lost one to Renegades of all people, which is sort of interesting. But
who doesn't, dude?
No, I was hella salty when Renegades didn't beat MIBR. They didn't really show up in the quarterfinals. No. I was sort of sad because Renegades are just like an easy fan base to rile up.
It's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Or something
you just want the engagement on the tweets. But all right, with ENCE and sort of the whole like Finnish like unshakable thing, doing the max thing, watching the player cams, the guys seemed like very calm. But I guess like the person I'm curious about is your opinions on Allu, because Allu is sort of the big name, or like the name that a lot of people are familiar with. And I actually did a poll on Twitter today, like, who do you think is better, Chris J or Allu? And I was thinking about like this comparison, like that's sort of the AWPer that I thought most reminded me of Allu. Sam, you're our sort of resident AWP connoisseur. What do you think?
Yeah, it was interesting because I saw your tweet. And I voted, actually, but I regret my vote. I voted for Chris J, but I regret doing that now.
You're the only person that put any thought into a fucking Twitter poll that you actually have regrets over.
I voted without thinking, and then after that I focused on Allu while I was watching some ENCE games, and I regretted saying that Chris J was better.
I think ENCE is sorry, not ENCE, but Allu's a better rifler, right?
Than Chris J.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, let me stop interrupting, and you can tell me your opinion.
Okay. So here, the reason that I don't think you can say that with good faith is that if you look at Allu's numbers over the past year, they're like astronomically better than Chris J's, and that's not only because Allu's numbers are decent. He's at like a 110, but Chris J is at like a 0.95 or something. So like I just, even though I have like certain conceptions of Chris J as a player, and I can say, oh yeah, he's an in-game leader and all that, like I will wait till we see how he is as a player without being an in-game leader, and then we'll judge how good of a player Chris J is. But for Allu specifically, I actually like, it's weird because Allu is probably my favorite personality in the game, but he's one of my least favorite players. I really don't like Allu as a player, and I think he's fine. Like I think he's okay for ENCE. Like it's fine. Like he doesn't bring the team down. In fact, like probably over this team's lifespan, he's probably been their best player. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Sergej's better. Like Sergej's obviously better.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like I'm thinking like Sergej kind of. I don't know. Like I have questions about Sergej as well. But they're both sort of inconsistent. They don't have that very consistent fragging at all. But anyway, with Allu, I just think people in your replies said like, oh, he's much more consistent than Chris J. Like he isn't consistent.
No, see, that was what confused me. I was like, well, I haven't been watching ENCE for a long time, so this might be a one-off. But like that Navi series was fucking atrocious from Allu.
It was, no, it was, and I think in the first half of the two last maps, I think the second map was Dust 2, right?
Yes.
He got 1 kill in that first half, and the first half of the last map, he got 4 or 3.
Yeah.
So like that's 4 kills across 30 rounds in the first, in like one of the most important best of 3s you've ever played. Like that was like really bad.
He's like missing Simple when Simple's right. Like just planting the bomb like out in the open.
Yeah, right. That did happen, but that's not representative of him as a player. Those are obviously his worst maps of the entire major. So if we're judging him by that, it's a little unfair. But I think that there's a misnomer that Allu, just because his numbers are sort of like pretty good but not great, like around 110, people think, oh, that's like a consistent guy. You know, he's pretty good, but he isn't. Like he's sometimes very good and he can make very aggressive plays, but he also misses a lot of op shots and he's not very stable. And I don't think that he's very reliable. I think that he's a pretty smart player, and I think that in clutch situations, mid-round situations, like three on threes and all that, when you've got a lot more space, he does some good work. But I don't think that he's like a very good opper, and I think that in fact, it shocked me to see that he was the best statistical player on that team, because I am constantly underwhelmed by him when I watch his VODs or his demos.
Well, here's the thing with the whole averages thing. Like, if you put me and Jeff Bezos in a room, our average net worth is $70 billion. Right? Sure. Like, that's not a good indication of my net worth, right? So, like, but go ahead, Max. Did you have a follow-up for that?
We just catch that.
I just wanted to get that point in. Just need I had a great analogy.
No, that was nice, man. I don't know. I think Allu is serviceable within the context of ENCE's team dynamic, and I think especially when ENCE are behind in a game, they have a tendency to lack agency in a round, and I feel like they are a team that can just go dead in the water if they lack sort of any forward momentum on T side. And even though Allu might not be that player who is going to be, oh yeah, he has 85 ADR every single game, and he's just a nice finish boy who's just going to hold CT on Mirage and hit that shot every time. It's like, at least when they're behind, he is that player that can just do something dumb in the mid round and win a random round, and then suddenly ENCE back in it. And I think it's very, very important, as I said before, within the context of ENCE as a team, that Allu as a player exists. And I think that's, I'm just going to wrap that one.
Yeah, no. See, that's what I was thinking with the Chris J angle. Like, Chris J, takes different sort of risks. Like, it just seems with, Chris J, he's not afraid of dying. Like, he'll just repeat over and over.
Yes.
Like that famous clip on Mirage where he just gets a 5K, right? Or an ace. But with Allu, it seems like positionally, he just doesn't care sometimes. Like, he's just all alone in mid. A key round, and it actually helped him in that one instance I'm remembering, because he cleared all of mid and he let
on Liquid. It was Liquid on Inferno.
Okay. Yeah,
got a 2K in mid just within 15 seconds of the round starting or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, but no, but there's I was thinking a different round on Mirage.
Oh,
but,
sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. But no, but he sometimes he just doesn't care. He's 4 kills all the way through that Liquid that Navi game on Mirage, and then he'll get 4K on Eek round. Well, who cares? And then he'll just peek Palace, get a kill on Edward, change the round. Then he actually has like another good round at the end there, even though he was playing like shit the whole map. Like he just doesn't. It does seem like he just like kind of doesn't care. He's just like, well, it doesn't matter if like I'm doing shit. I'll still do my shit anyway. And that's sort of respectable. Like even if he's playing absolutely terrible, he'll just I think this is what Max was saying, that like he'll just like do his thing. Like he'll just like try shit. He'll still keep going. He won't just like, oh, I'm not good on the op today, I'll go to the rifle and play passive. Like he'll keep doing his thing. He just doesn't seem like he cares, or he has the right mentality, like the right I guess he just understands he needs to be a wild card, a playmaker for that team.
I think he has a very intuitive sense of how to approach the game, just in general.
No.
So I'll like to say, like, I think that he's perfectly fine. Like he's not a problem in ENCE, but I think that people have a weird conception of him. Which I don't. People think. I think it's because when he played on NIP, he was replacing Makalele, and and Makalele was a crazy AWPer, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's way more stable, and he hits mid-range shots."
Yeah.
But I think that if you actually look at his play, at least now, it's not as crazy or random, let's say, as Chris J. But it's definitely on, like, in terms of the op spectrum, it's definitely more on the dangerous, inconsistent side.
Is there a better op comparison that you can make, or no? Am I the best? Did I make the best comparison possible?
Maybe
Xcure anymore.
I don't know. Maybe have a 10%, pretty good in the clutch situations. Both like tend to be the guy who's active in the mid round with the AWP. Good on both sides of the map. Like,
wait, who? I'm sorry, I didn't. Who you talking?
Xcure.
Xcure. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know Tyler that well, so yeah. I'll trust you.
Fallen? Maybe Fallen these days.
I mean, Fallen's just such a specific guy with like the very short range shit. And Fallen, I actually don't think has the confidence. Yeah, he does, but like I don't think he has the confidence just to like clear space the way that Allu does, or like just to like he is a playmaker. You'll definitely try to like make picks, but I mean, yeah, it's a pretty good comparison. You're right, but
Twist. Twist, I guess it depends on how much
Swedish Twist.
Do you just want to name every AWPer in the top 10? No,
I'm just like Twist is like somewhat similar, where he isn't incredibly bombastic like JW is, but he's not as consistent as people would think he is. Not as passive as people would think he is. So Twist is not a bad shot either.
The other player that I was looking at, it was sort of interesting. Maybe we can go to this other point Sam, you mentioned earlier about how the inconsistencies of the star players, because it didn't seem like map to map as I was watching it. It was like there's not like a solid like X7 obviously had a great playoffs, but my impression was that he's not actually a guy who's had that reputation as being like a star player. He's not like a Valdi who can play like all those sort of like small site anchor or bitch spot players and still be a star. He just like sort of randomly had that reputation. But like for like the guy actually impressed me the most. I don't know if you guys are laughing at me or like agree with me or not, but I thought it was Ariel in the playoffs.
I think Ariel is definitely, because he's so old, I think like I always kind of overlooked him as like just whatever, he's like a stand-in kind of player. But I think that over the past like few months, he's definitely like played very, very well. And I think that he's just even, like he's part of that 110 with Sergej and Allu in terms of fragging. So it's not weird that you think that he would impress you. He's also by far their hardest entry.
Yep.
Yes.
Or at least not so much at this tournament. This tournament, they were pretty even across the board, although he was at the top with Alexi B, but still it was pretty even. But generally speaking, he's been at like 27% over the past 6 months, something like that, which is obviously very high. So he's like, he in a way, he's incredibly important to that team.
Yeah,
and then he often doesn't show up. Like I don't know if that happened so much at this tournament, but he's not a reliable player, and it shows when he isn't. And ENCE is a lot less impressive when that is the case. That was in fact the case in the Renegade series that we discussed in the previous episode, where Ariel had one of his worst series of the major for him, and that's when they totally fell apart and lost a pretty bad, I guess, a fine team, but not up to their standards. So Ariel is definitely very important.
But I think he's actually pretty aggressive on the CT side too. It seems like he's the guy that they like sort of have picked to be like, all right, whenever we're going to make it a push into enemy territory, you're the guy. Like you're going to be the guy who pushes mid or like push main or whatever map on whatever map. You know, we're going to flash you in. Does that seem right to you, Max?
Well, I think in general, ENCE are actually a pretty aggressive CT team, and I think they feel very confident taking structured risks on CT side. I don't know if it's, it wouldn't surprise me if Ariel was that person that you've seen doing that, but I've seen like Sergej make similar plays like this. I've seen AWPer make similar plays like this. I think it's just that main fragging core, and it's like whoever's playing that spot in that map is the person that gets flashed in. In terms of everything Sam just said, like just keep talking to me that way, Sam. Like that's just exactly my picture of ENCE as well. I think there was when I was doing research for an article on ENCE, in the announcement made on their website, they said that Ariel was the highest paid Finnish like CS:GO player. Like the transfer from his previous team to ENCE was like the highest money transfer thing. So I think he probably threw that, and the way they talked about him on the website seems to be one of these players in Finland who was like a pretty sought after star. And then the way they structured him into their game, I get the vibe that they want him to be that type of player who's like always at the front, finding the headshots, being that sort of very aggressive, flashy rifler. In terms of the inconsistency, he is definitely, along with AWPer, both of them can go missing a lot on T side. And as I've always said with ENCE, it is those two that dictate their T side, and their T side is their biggest problem as a team. I think in terms of their CT game, they're quite fleshed out, they're quite cohesive, and they have a very, very good understanding of how to play CT sides in general. But to me, their biggest issues have always been T side, and their biggest issues on T side have always been AWPer and Ariel. And so, yeah, when you look at the playoffs, I think if you were to talk to like 100 people about ENCE and their playoff run, they would all pick out a different player who they thought did well. Because in general, everyone on ENCE had like a pretty good major, I would say. And they all had moments that we remember like in a strong fashion. So, did Scott drop?
All right, so we've realized the AUG is a cursed topic, so we're going to move on. I think we got...
It's like, you know how on By the Numbers, how like when they say something too controversial on stream and they have to like cut out that part for YouTube, it's like, dude, some of the things you've been saying about the org have been outrageous for the last half hour, man. Like completely uncalled for. Like personally, I feel disgusted and attacked, and I'm thankful that this is going to be removed for YouTube.
I've always wanted to like for Sam to say something edgy, or like you, Max, to say something edgy, and then be like, Sam, timestamp that. Just like, I don't know. Reference game. All right, all the by the number references, but we should get back to it. All right, I'm trying to get my train of thought back into Counter-Strike. Let me just 1 sec. Okay.
And away from like death. You know? Yeah. Just away from the afterlife.
Yeah. No, I was about to give up on this podcast and esports, and I'm just getting crawled back by like young Finnish boys, just the sirens call. Okay, wait, which one of those guys is like literally 16 years old?
Sergej.
Yeah. That's an interesting story. All right, Sergej. Who is Sergej? Okay, I feel like my comparison for Ariel would be like someone like a Breeze. Like he's not as intense as a Breeze in terms of his risk taking, but he's sort of in that vein, like an old school Rain sort of guy.
Finnish Breeze.
Like Finnish Breeze, yeah. Yeah, just like a lot more chill Breeze.
Yeah.
How would you describe Sergej? The easiest thing would be say he's like Twist, because Twist was a 16-year-old phenom. Yeah. But is that a good comparison to who?
Stylistically, no. Well, it's like in general, Sergej is a guy who's very, very good at late round situations and clutching, and he holds together a lot of ENCE CT side if like certain people get picked, like Allu or Ariel, going for aggressive plays. And but Sergej can do a lot of different things. I think he's a very versatile player. I think he's capable of doing a lot. But in general, he's sort of, in the context of ENCE's dynamic, he gets pushed towards more like clutch situations and towards like more the middle of the pack on T side. And so in that sense, I think you could like maybe draw a parallel to like Automatic on Cloud9, maybe. I don't know.
My thought when I was first watching ENCE, I was watching them because of Sergej. This was last year, and people were hyping up a lot. And I was so unimpressed by him while I was watching him, and yet his stats were so good that my mind immediately went to Coldzera. But I'm not sure.
That's a pretty good analogy.
Yeah,
like it is.
I don't like that analogy because I think he's a lot worse than Coldzera at this stage, and I think that Coldzera has a lot more impact. But
really, dude? Do you think a 16-year-old Finnish player is like a bit worse than like the greatest Brazilian? Oh, dude, that's crazy.
Right. I just I just mean like I don't like comparing players to players that are much better than them, generally speaking. But I think that stylistically that would be like a pretty good one. I think that like maybe I don't know, maybe JKS, but that's not at this tournament.
Not to that degree. Not to that degree. Yeah. But he definitely has like an aftertaste of JKS.
Yeah. But so I think that Sergej has a lot more to show on a different team, or at least on this team with different players or a different setup. Mm-hmm. I think that he sort of doesn't get a lot of attention, or he's not treated like a star on this team, which is okay. It's not a big deal, but I think that his talent level is much higher than his performance level at this stage. I think he plays a way too passive not for the function of the team, but just to flex his skill. But when you actually look at what he does, when he does get into duels and things like that, and he can play relatively aggressive, like he did at this tournament. He was decently aggressive at this tournament in terms of entry attempts. So yeah, I think he's a pretty good player. Although I think he's overrated. Like I think that Rops is overrated. And I think it's unfair. It's a bit unfair to say they're overrated because obviously you're kind of banking on the fact that they're going to improve as they.
Yes,
there's a lot of hype that they're going to improve. So like the hype is like, it's weirdly justified, but at the same time it's annoying because they haven't proven it in the server quite yet.
Right, but I think it's different from other players like Zivo or like Woxic, who are. Like less young. Well, Zivo was the same age.
Woxic's proven it on land, though not consistently tournament after tournament. Versus a lot of like.
Let's say Zivo is much better right now than Sergej is.
Yeah.
So even though he's proven a lot less at land than Sergej has, his talent level and his performance level shows a lot more than Sergej does. And same with Rops, where Rops never really. Maybe a couple tournaments, but never generally played like a superstar. You're just like, whoa, this guy's so young. He must eventually be a superstar.
So but again, the difference between like Sergej and and Zawu is like Sergej doesn't have just like 4 flaming hot pieces of garbage around him that like he needs to carry every single game. You know, like he's afforded the luxury of not having to just be that superstar player.
Right, that's true. But when I look at Sergej at this stage, I don't look at someone who's a superstar, and so I find it a little unfair to the other players on that team that people look at that team and think, oh yeah, Sergej is by far the best player, and he's a superstar of that team when he isn't treated like a superstar. He's the most talented team, but yeah, I don't think he's really, in terms of the value he's providing right now. I think he's one of their best players, but he's heads and shoulders above everyone else.
No, but I think in terms of the way he looks when he plays in clutches and his like if you're talking about the embodiment of ENCE as a team, if you were to pick up the word cloud of the way we've been describing them so far, it's like composed, solid fundamentals, like functional in the context of the team dynamic. All these things is like Sergej to a T. And it's crazy that he is 16 and he's able to, if you remember back to Cologne, like he was beasting and feasting against like some of these crazy top 10 names like Navi. I think they beat Mouse or maybe not, but it's how uncharacteristically calm he is for a player of his age, which I guess is the parallel to Robs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the last major, you guys were like right after Cole placed top 8, you guys were. I think overhyping them a bit, and then I sort of swooping in with my negativity had to call you guys out on it. But I mean, for ENCE, I think there's a lot of high expectations with this team. I could ask like a pretty generic question: is ENCE overrated? But maybe instead, if you want to get into more particulars than that, like what's a reasonable expectation for ENCE in terms of maybe world ranking or what you can expect from them tournament to tournament? Are they a semifinals team at major tournaments, at premier level tournaments? Are they a quarterfinals team?
They're currently the 4th best team in the world on HLTV. So.
Yeah, I think that's a bit much. Personally, I think they're
really?
more. Yeah. Okay, so it's okay. I just don't know. I don't know how hype people are.
No, I'm sure you got the full like.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. I didn't know, but if you guys thought they were overrated or not, but I think they're more like a quarterfinals team. Does that sound right?
I think they're a team that will probably sit like in the 6th to 10th slot on HLTV's rankings, and I think probably over time will be closer to 10 than 6. But it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, let everyone have their fun. They made the major fun. It's a big deal. They beat a lot of really good teams out there. They played some good Counter-Strike. I think it's the classic thing where it's like when you have that big tournament, it's and everyone's playing well, all the fault lines and all the problems of the team just get completely veiled over by the in the moment cohesion and success that these players can find. But I'm sure they'll be they'll probably get upset at a DreamHack Open event in the next 3 months. I wouldn't be surprised if they even choose to go to DreamHack Open events anymore. Maybe they're too good for that now. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone like a North or a Fnatic or an even an Avangard, like some of these types of sides, can take ENCE the distance in a best of 3 and actually win.
Sam, are you as down on them? I'm surprised by Max's negativity. I might have to go contrarian the other way and hype up ENCE now.
I mean, it's tough because the field looks so weak right now.
Yeah, that's my article today. That's what I was saying the whole last podcast. I think that I think the scene looks really weak right now, and I don't want to diss Astralis or whatever. I do think Astralis is a really sick team. We all have to give fucking endless heaps of praise to Astralis, but on some level we all know FaZe should be a lot better. They have way too much fucking talent to be this bad. Navi should have made a roster change a year ago, it is just sort of very frustrating at the moment.
There's no second best team in the world. There's no third best team in the world.
But we have to see where Liquid...
awesome.
We have to see how Liquid plays out with... I didn't like that people at the Major were Liquid is the second best team in the world. I didn't like that. It just didn't make any sense.
Someone on broadcast said some might even say they're the best team in the world. Now, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
No, they have to. I mean, you can't get too mad at them because they have to hype the shit. That's their fucking job,
Sure.
But it is pretty fucking cringy. I'm listening to the...
How did someone from the HLTV forum get paid to be on the desk? What the man.
But
so I think that ENCE it will. Okay, so actually, there's the thing I want to say first, which is that people will say that Astralis is was dominant against a weak field, and I think it's true that the field is sort of weak now, but I don't think that was the case last year. I think that Team Liquid and Navi were legitimately great teams.
I agree.
Yep.
So
FaZe is underrated for much of 2018, in my opinion, as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tough because they were so chaotic in terms of their roster that it's hard to pin them down, but. For sure. But for ENCE, I think it very much depends on other teams. And not I'm not talking about MIBR or FaZe, because I think that those teams will be better than ENCE regardless, although FaZe, who knows what their roster looks like. But I think that it depends more on teams like NRG, teams like North, Mousesports, G2. Those teams could be better than ENCE. I think someone like G2, for example, is someone that you might expect to be worse than ENCE given the last year. But I think that if you look at their new roster, they have much more. I think they have much more firepower than ENCE does with Amanek. Although I guess it depends on your opinion of Amanek. But or North, who knows? Vitality, who knows? NRG should be better, but they might not be. So depending on where the other people lie, it wouldn't surprise me if ENCE was 5th or 6th. I think they're better than NiP and Cloud9. But at the same time, they could easily fall to 13th, depending on how the other team stepped up. I think they're a fine team. I just don't.
I bet you
they have a high ceiling. Go ahead.
You're gonna make a bet live right now. I think either Ghost, Big, Hellraisers. If they face off, I would put money on Ghost beating ENCE in a best of 3.
I mean, I think
no.
It's amazing. So
yeah,
Ghost is so sick that
they are sick. And that's the thing is that even though it's a weak field,
didn't they try to kick Steel a week ago?
Hey, shut the fuck up. Let us. You shut your mouth.
But I think I definitely see that I think they will get upset by these teams. But at the same time, do you really not think that Vitality will or that Fnatic will? Like, I think that those teams will also.
To be honest, man, yeah, like I think Cloud9 shit. I think Vitality shit. Like I think a lot of teams from like 10 and below, it's basically just a toss up. And that, like, the ranking doesn't matter at all. It's just, like, the quality of the play and how often they play. And I think, like, Ghost is a way better team than most of the teams from, like, 10 to 15 on HLTV. I think Hellraisers over time will be a lot better than a lot of these teams. And it's just one of those things where, like...
I mean, why are you saying Hellraisers? You realize that their roster is dismantling, right?
Oh, true. Fuck.
Oh, you forgot that Woxic and Dead Fox are probably leaving.
No, dude, I don't read the news, man. I'm literally just I'm just here in my room just watching VODs, man. Dude, I don't even open the news anymore.
Can we talk about Mousesports?
No, 1 second.
Fuck.
Okay, all right, can I? 1 second though. Like, all right, here's like the ironic reason where I'm actually up on ENCE in comparison to you guys. I think I'm up on ENCE because I'm so much more down on the rest of the scene than you guys.
Right.
Like my cynicism extends much further. But no, yeah, I think Mousesports like looks very promising, but. Yeah, it's the only roster, like, okay, Kerrigan's there, okay, like, Woxic, yeah, Sam, you're super excited. I had to immediately diss you on Twitter, and then Thorin, like, dogpiled. Like,
I saw that, like, a day after, yeah.
Well, okay, but what do you want to say about Mousesports? Do you think they're going to be better than ENCE?
Well, the reason I wanted to bring Mousesports in now is because I think that it's relevant to this talking about, like, where are people going to end. Because, like, okay, so if anyone didn't see, the rumor is that, let me make sure I get this right, that it's going to be Frozen, Kerrigan, Frozen the 16-year-old, another 16-year-old talent.
Yeah.
So Frozen, Kerrigan, Woxic, Chris J, and Rock.
Oh, dude, that's... Jesus Christ. That's...
So, Chris J is back in Mouse, allegedly. And Rops is still there. Sunny's gone to Cloud9. They're bringing in Kerrigan. They're bringing in Frozen. They're bringing in Woxic. Overall, talent-wise, I don't know about Frozen. To be honest, I never. Really...
I don't know why they take a risk on Frozen. They could just get like a solid middling player,
like any other player.
Sunny's good. Sunny's good.
I think Sunny wants. That's the vibe that I got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he thinks that he has a better chance with Cloud9, or maybe he just doesn't like the team anymore. They've been together for a very long time.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's a rough. I mean, Sunny's a tough blow because obviously that was probably their best player. But I mean, Oscar leaving is also a question. But I was just wondering what you guys thought about that roster because there's a lot of names that people think very highly of. People think very highly of.
You're talking about you.
No. I'm talking about like, people think very highly of Chris J. People think very highly of Kerrigan. People think very highly of Rops.
Yeah.
And Woxic is a pretty highly touted AWPer. So this team should look like, oh yeah, this is going to be awesome. But for some reason, my instinct was like a bit like disappointed or confused.
Okay, I'll do my spiel first. I think this team looks.
Can you put the link to the roster in the chat so I can just look at it visually, please? Yeah, thanks.
Well, I think that the team looks pretty solid. Like the thing, yeah, like I'm saying, like I'm Frozen's the big question mark because I literally just haven't watched the guy play. So it's like, how am I supposed to have a big judgment on this guy? Yeah. But no, I think Rops, like as I was saying before, I think I don't know if that got cut out of the bot, or he's gonna get cut out of the bot or not. But I think like guys like Rops, I think they do get overrated just because like the amount of like forcing people want to do. Like this guy's gonna be the greatest player ever. Like people, I think once they reach the pro level, don't develop that much. Like you don't really see that many like really radical shifts with a player, in my opinion. Maybe someone like Krims, Olafmeister actually have changed a lot, but a lot of guys like Guardian just do the same shit year after year. Kenny S, Device, Dupree.
Yeah. I mean, Device has changed a lot from when he first
he's been the same for the last like 2.5 years.
Right, but we're talking about like a guy at the beginning of his career. Like you look at Device in 2013, and you look at him now.
Yeah,
that's a player that's grown a lot over time, just very, very slow.
Yeah, I mean, like
TSM fan.
I don't think he's like changed. I mean, it's not like a radical difference. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we're getting to a side point, but Rops I think is a good player. Like I was saying in the article I released today, I very much value players like him who can play those sorts of roles and still be effective players. Zipnix, Valdi, Rops, to a lesser extent Taco, right?
Yeah.
To a significantly lesser extent Taco, but yeah, like guys who can just do that. I think that's a great piece. I think Kerrigan's a great piece. I think I'm a guy who's a fan of Chris J. I think Chris J is like the third star of the team, is very valuable. A guy who can have that big game and like, you know, carry you over to the top when your stars aren't, you know, maybe having their best game, or maybe they're not, they're going away from them. Like I think he's a good piece to have. I think he looked like a top 10 player in the world at times last summer. So I think Chris J's good. I don't know. Yeah, the problem is Frozen. Like and it's like hard to figure out the composition of the team. Like who's going to be the Sunny of the team? Is that going to be Frozen, or are they going to, or like I guess Walks is going to opt, so Chris J's going to have to be like the forward guy. So it's like a little. I'm a little confused on it.
I mean, Chris J will probably have about the same role he had on a previous lineup since Oscar was the main operator there too. Probably just a hard entry.
Like wild card sort of guy.
Yeah. What's confusing to me is maybe they just didn't have the money, but why wouldn't they pick up Issa? I feel like Issa is much less of a risk than Frozen.
Oh, yeah.
Although Frozen's been playing, to be fair, he's been playing at the tier 3, so it's not like he's coming out of FPL or something like that. Like he has played, and he has like a 1.23. He's been doing moderately well. It's not that much of a. It's just that he hasn't played much on LAN. And he hasn't really played against tier 2 teams very much, so it's strange. But
it's like a fucking snacks pickup again. It's like, yeah, there's a big upside, but it's like I don't really get it. Like
I think it's closer to the Rops pickup, but it's actually less risky than the Rops pickup because Frozen has played more at the semi-pro level than Rops had at that time.
He is definitely a guy that people I will see randomly just talk about on Twitter, like. You gotta watch out for this guy, so I don't know.
Yeah. But do you guys think that this is a satisfactory roster for Kerrigan?
I think
he should be on FaZe.
Kerrigan. Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, obviously.
MSL should be on Mousesports. Kerrigan should be on FaZe. That's my opinion.
Fuck that. I'd rather have Chris J as in-game leader than MSL for Mousesports.
Do you know which podcast you're on?
I know, but I can actually justify that. It's because you have a bunch of international talent, and you're stacking up with firepower. That's the goal of Mousesports, right? So, like, I don't want someone like Oscar to have MSL. I don't know. That just feels dirty. Like Oscar.
If you have a surplus of firepower, it's fine to have MSL. The problem with MSL is like if he's on a team with a firepower deficit, and he just makes it worse.
It depends. Maybe actually with players like Rops and Valde, they work really well because they're very skilled players, but they also play very passively. But a player like Chris J or Oscar, I definitely don't want.
Yeah, you're just inviting too much risk onto the roster with all those guys on it.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that I actually wanted to, like, I don't think that FaZe should have kept Kerrigan. Like, I know that they would be better if they had, but I think that it was the right time to move on. I think the mistake was not kicking Kerrigan. It was deciding to add a Dren and have Nico as their in-game leader. That was more of a mistake. Like, that's, like, I don't know who you can get. Maybe you get Angel. I don't know who you get as an in-game leader that was available at the time.
Well, we all know what happened last time Daps picked up Tarek back on Optic days. Tarek then kicked Daps, right? Like as a welcoming present, you know? He's like, oh, I'm new in the team. I'm going to kick the in-game leader of your team now. So maybe that'll happen again on Energy. Energy can pick up MSL. Daps can go to FaZe. That'd be a fucking nightmare, wouldn't it? Just Daps just surrounded by all those personalities.
Yeah.
Dude, I actually think
I would pay money to see that.
I just match his uncomfortable face, just like looking back and forth, like between like Guardian, like silently angry, and like Nico
with his
you're misunderstanding. It's literally just me on like the demo with the minimap fully expanded in the middle of the screen, just with like all these red lines. Like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Like, why do they keep pushing top mid on Mirage every round? Like,
yeah. Okay, so I actually think, like, here's my bold prediction. I think by the end of the year, Daps is actually kicked and Tarek becomes a game leader. I think
that's beyond obvious. There's no way Daps.
Yeah, yeah, because I just think, like, but in a way, I don't blame them. In a way.
No, Daps is, like, I can't, like, it legitimately is getting on my nerves now that people think Daps is, like, a solid player individually. He's not. Like, straight up, like, but like at the same time, he is worth it to be on that team. Like, I still think he's a very valuable piece of that team. I just think that, like, it's possible, yeah, if they got Kerrigan on that lineup, it would be a better team. I think that if they wanted to try something, if this roster, I mean, I think Tarek's the wrong pickup for Energy. I think they need a different sort of player. As I said, like, 10 times now on this podcast, I think Automatic would be a fantastic pickup for Energy and fit much better onto that roster as a replacement for Fugly as opposed to Tarek. But if they need to try something desperate, like switching Stanislav for Daps a la Optic 2.0 is like, it's like not the worst idea.
No, I mean, I get what you mean. I just have no faith in Stanislav because of how many rosters have turned sour with him. Like, I really like this NRG core, and I don't want it to turn into a void.
I'm done with Cirque. I'm done with Cirque, though.
I'm done with Cirque as well. Dude, I'm done with Bulgaria as a country.
Okay. On the Tarek thing, I think that Automatic would make more sense. Well, I think he's a better player than Tarek, and he's a bit more passive and deliberate. So in that sense, he has better.
He's played all the roles. He's played like every role in the game, and he's like good at all of them. Or like he's like, you know, they vary. Like the best time in his career was his second entry behind Stewie 2K, but like he's playing op now. He's never played op now. Like he can do anything, and he's like a really good player. Like put him on fucking NRG where they need a secondary op, by the way, because Daps is not a good secondary opper.
Tarek can op too, though. But so this is the thing. I think that for Fugly, I actually think that Tarek is a closer match stylistically. I think that Fugly, like that. Remember that Tarek does hold small sites as well, but he has more of an aggressive taste to him, and I think that Fugly did too. It's a weird thing that I didn't feel like Fugly fit very neatly into the categorization of like Zipex or Taco.
He did play like bathrooms on Overpass.
He played really bad.
I think he's more of a rush than he is anything else.
Yeah, sure. That would be that would be a pretty good comparison. But maybe not so much on CT side. But I think that that Tarek just kind of does what Fugly does, but more or less better. Like he's a more skilled player. So I don't think there will be a rough transition. Maybe I'll have to bite my words, but if they don't try to fit Tarek in and make him like a really good player because of his reputation compared to the other players, if they just use him the way they use Fugly, I think that NRG are better for it. But even though like Automatic would have been better, he probably would have been more expensive. I don't know. Like maybe he didn't want to leave, you know. But Automatic is in hell right now.
Yeah, I just don't see anything from that Cloud9 lineup. Well, but the thing with Tarek though is, like, I just don't think that he is a supportive like anchor player. Dude. He's just not.
Well, if you remember the way in Cloud9 he called when he was the in-game leader, he wasn't calling like some high-level structured game.
No.
It was literally just like, let's hold W to the bottom of connector on Mirage every single fucking round and win a major because of it. Like, I don't know, man.
I just don't see, like, it just, like, I think there's, like, merit to what Sam's saying, that, like, Fugly wasn't a pure, like, Zipnix type, but he was definitely very much on that spectrum.
I'm thinking
that, like, Tarek
side than I am T side.
Yeah.
So no, maybe that's where we're.
Yeah, I think it's CT side too. Like, I think that, like, on MVBR, like, yeah, Tarek did have to play spots like B anchor on Mirage. Like, and he's doing that, and that's what Fugly does on NRG. So there's some overlap, but I think MIBR putting Tarek into those roles was a mistake.
No, what Tarek did those roles on Cloud9 when they won that major.
Oh, really?
He was their B anchor there too, and he was really good at it on Mirage. Like, I'm not saying for the other one, but so Tarek like has actually never really been on these like recent rosters. Not so much CLG. I don't fucking remember that. But like he hasn't been like the star player or something like that. He's been part of the entry pack, and that's been a big part of his like that's something that. So that like on T side it might be different, but on CT side he hasn't been the main focus. He hasn't been like the guy that's like taking up those duels at the beginning of the round and stuff like that. Much less than the other team.
But on T, that is like breezy, like pretty solidly though. Like so, I wonder if that's going to be some sort of confusing. They have to work that out. And Daps is not like a passive player. He likes to be at the front of the pack. Like he likes to be sort of sacrificial in like a IGL starting the execute sort of way. Like so they need like see Ethan will play like periphery like roles, but he doesn't periphery to the main pack on the team, but he does it like taking like really obvious or like really aggressive aim duels. Like he'll be like sandbags overpass while the main group's A, you know? Just like trying to get the guy toxic or barrels or whatever it's called. Yeah. So like I mean we're sort of getting off topic, but yeah, no, I think I'm really not excited about the NRG team. I think that if they are better, it's going to be marginally, and if they're going to be worse, they're going to be a lot worse. And I think they could have made a better picker.
I think in terms of the way, like it's Daps' wet dream to get someone like Tarek on this roster, right? Just in terms of what he will call T side now with Tarek, Breezy, Ethan, and Sergej. Dude, are you like serious? Like I think
Sergej.
Serg. Sorry. That would be nuts if Sergej joined NRG. But I think like in terms of the T side firepower on NRG, like I wouldn't be surprised if they like take some like big crazy best of one upsets. But I don't know. Like who would you replace for Serg? Like in terms of just within the context of how NRG play on T side.
Someone said Wardell.
Wardell's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. MSL. No, I'm just kidding.
Kusta, Wardell, both good players.
Not Kusta. Fuck Kusta. No, I refuse.
Dude, Shazam. No,
oh no, God, that would be.
Anyway.
That would be creating a fucking ceiling for your like. I don't know.
I really just want to say Mixwell, but I know it's like been a long time since he's been good.
I also think that he has never been. I think he's never been better than Circus. So
I think no. Mixwell like 2016 summer when Optic were just like trying to get to majors and stuff, like way before they like were actually winning tournaments. He was like their star player and he was pretty good.
Yeah, but like Cirque right now is pretty good. He's just very disappointing and inconsistent. Like
he's pretty good, except for the fact he's not, man.
I don't know what you're trying to say, dude.
Part of why you're down on him is because of how talented he is. That's the point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like for example, Cirque right now is better than Allu. But I don't think that's controversial at all. Like to be honest with you, they're both inconsistent. One of them is infinitely more talented than the other. Yeah, one of the other's better in clutches, so I guess it depends on what you need in your team. But generally speaking, which one would I pick up? I would pick up Cirque, even if he didn't.
Cirque doesn't have like a great function on energy though. Like I feel like Allu has a great function. Like he has like he like is useful in the way that to steal Max's term. Now they said yes in the background. Like he like creates win conditions for rounds where I don't feel like Cirque does.
Yeah, well, that's actually an interesting point. I do agree. It almost feels like Cirque like should have a role, or like Daps sees a role that like Cirque. Okay, you're gonna do this in this round, and then Cirque just kind of lets him down every time, even when he gets kills. Yeah. So like But I also think that of Allu when I watch him play. Like you say, he creates win conditions. He also loses them rounds.
Yes.
he dies randomly a lot. So I think that they're similar players in that sense. Like, not so much in their like micro play, but in the result. Like Serg does get a lot of frags, like, so he has to get them somewhere. I think it's more like he gets really impressive kills and then he misses a bunch of kills. And so you have to sort of correct your, like, yes, he disappoints you a lot, but even if he misses 3 shots in a round and he gets 2, that's still a lot of impact in that round, right? So I realize it's a very reductive way, but without going to specific demos, that's the best I can do. So, like, I think that Serg is fine. Like, I don't think you need to. I think that you would only remove him if you could find like a good replacement, not just a maybe replacement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely like it's a drag they can afford. You know, like even if he's like all right, it's fine. Like, but I think like definitely there's room for improvement in the op role.
You replace Cirque with Wardell or Automatic, and maybe you just leave it at that.
I would rather see Automatic on the rifle.
Yeah.
But I'm also the guy.
The upside of Automatic is bigger than the upside of Cirque if you move him in.
It's true. But I'm also the guy who didn't want Device to hop at the beginning of last year. So
yeah, I think about it.
Selfish.
I think we started doing episodes of this podcast and like Sam's big like breakthrough, big brain theories. Like the way to fix Astralis is to put a device on the rifle and then put your boy Yugi on the op. And like, just history hasn't like helped you out there.
No, but when I think back, like I still think that makes sense. No, like
it does. Like on a certain level, but Yugi just hasn't.
Astralis would have never lost to Navi in the semifinals of ESL Clone 2018 if Device was on the rifle. Yugi was on the. He would have had both majors. Like,
he would have been number 1, not number 2 on the.
I mean, like
exactly. World rankings.
Like here's this is what I was saying on Twitter the other day with like that tweet I mentioned. It's like I don't know if Woxic like Yugi. I just don't know why Yugi fell off. Like he seemed like a very talented player. Like is it because just being in that environment shitty? Is he going to be good once he gets out of it? Is it that like the actually when he's like sort of a Fitch thing where he actually gets to that level and people watch his demos and like he's not just this wild guy coming out of nowhere and they're really confused.
Definitely what it is.
Yeah,
that's definitely what it is.
So that's my
how he plays.
Yeah, that's my confusion with Woxic.
Sure.
Is like, when he is playing the same teams every other weekend, and it's just like Astralis is just gonna like, no, I know how to fuck this kid, and just like take him out of the game. And he looks really trash, even though he has a good skill set.
It depends on what you expect from Woxic, I guess. But for Yugi, I think that there's also, I can't remember where I heard this, but so this is not, I'm not the most reliable source, but I remember that before he joined Heroic. I think he was on Tricked. Yugi was said to like party a lot and have some motivation issues and all that. And so it would make sense to me that in an Optic team that seemingly is rudderless, he would also lose motivation. That's definitely the kind of situation where if you're prone to lose motivation, you will. To be honest, like even I lost motivation when I was looking at Optic. So
lost all hope for a Just World when you see all that talent just fucking withering away.
I know,
like a Dorian Gray painting with no like guy in the real world like maintaining his youth.
God, I can't believe they still exist. I'm really annoyed at that. But I actually haven't given up on Yugi entirely. I still think that he was talented. I don't think that was like smokes and mirrors, but I am very disappointed in his year because I think an unforgivable year. When it comes to Woxic, I think that Woxic has a longer tenure in the scene. But I think that if you look at his stats, you'll get the wrong pick. Like Woxic is, because he kind of does everything for Hellraiser, he gets a lot. Like Angel just puts him wherever. Oh, they're going B a lot. Okay, like let's put Woxic B. Oh, they're going mid a lot. Okay, Woxic go mid. He gets fed a lot of kills that way, and so he might have like a 1.25 or a 1.3 rating on HLTV at any given time, playing against like tier 3 teams. But I think that realistically, Woxic is much more around the 115, 118 range. And I think, I haven't checked recently, but that was more or less where he was against top 10 teams, top 15 teams. So I think that if you, like, Woxic should be a pretty good player, but I don't think that he's going to be a superstar. But I think that's already pretty good given how many pretty good oppers are there. Like, I can think of maybe Guardian, I would say, is like a good but not a superstar AWPer. But otherwise, there's no, so that's sort of a luxury right now with Kenny S being meh. There's not a lot of just good AWPers. So I think that Woxic is definitely a benefit to a team like Mousesports. I don't think they're getting a better player than him in that position. So I mean,
other than like simple device, what Guardian, like maybe
Gratisfaction.
Gratisfaction.
Oh my god! Actually, that's a good comparison. Like maybe like Gratisfaction at this major. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like Gratisfaction was really good, but definitely not like a superstar. He was very positive for his team.
See, here's the thing. I wanted the Woxic move for old AWPer for Mousesports. Oscar. I lost it for a second. Yeah, I wanted that move to happen because I think it's just like way more interesting. Like we've seen Oscar for years. He's like a very off player. Like he just like does his own thing. It looks great where he's like goes off of spawns and like gets a bunch of picks and like wins the game, but like sometimes he just like I don't know. He just doesn't seem present. So I just sort of want to see Woxic. So I hope that he ends up being a better player than Oscar. I'm not sure if if I was the GM, I probably would have said, yeah, like try Woxic if it's not terribly expensive. But I'm not sold either way. I think I'm favoring towards Woxic over Oscar at the moment, though.
Well, definitely for the direction of this team. Like I think that the boon of having Kerrigan now, if you're Mousesports, you're the second biggest international team in the world. If you want to pick up, maybe Cloud9 is comparable at this stage, probably in terms of capital they have more. But in terms of reputation, you're a very good team. You have good standing in the scene. You have one of the best in-game leaders in the world, and you have Woxic, you have Rops, I guess you have Frozen. Like that's like whoever works in that team, they can keep. Whoever doesn't, you can remove. And so Woxic is definitely one of those pieces that you might be able to build your team around. So I think it's a great gamble for them to get that player. It's also nice to know that Hellraisers was like constantly like missing from lands and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's nice to have him on a different team.
Okay. So I think that just to go back to the main point of the podcast, I think like ENCE, I think like it's just like there's no way that they're gonna be better consistently than MIBR, FaZe, Astralis, and then like Navi, and then there's teams like NRG and Mousesports now that I think are going to and Liquid too up in that second tier with like FaZe, Navi, MIBR. So I feel like NRG, we'll see how it plays out, but they're around the ENCE level. I think Mousesports will probably even be better than ENCE. Chances are. I think like honestly, teams like Big. You want to throw in Ghost in there, but like they're more around that level to me still. Like I was impressed by them in this major. I think in the AUG meta, like I was saying, okay, about to go robot voice. Curse is coming back, but I think in the AUG meta they are a better team. I think they definitely have good players. It's just like I don't see how they're gonna. Even if like half these teams fail, they're still like sixth in the world. You know?
Yes, I agree.
All right, and podcast. Okay, but just
cool. Yeah. I think they don't even stay as like. Yeah, I can't believe I'm more pessimistic about ENCE than you guys are. Like
I think that
any long-term like firepower, like their ability to contest on an individual level with so many of these teams is just not there over a long stretch of time. And I think like for example X7, in my notes throughout watching ENCE, it's like he has never played at the level like the peaks he hit at the major throughout time. Like he was a player that I always thought should have been kicked, like replaced by Sunny on ENCE. And it's like, oh yeah, now he's just like doing some of the most insane clutches. Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, the roles don't work.
Yeah, that's sort of fucked up.
See, Do you remember the last podcast? You just
but that's my whole article I released today, Max. I am arguing against you. You can't replace talent with talent. You need to build the roster properly. I am very upset with you.
Do you know what's that? Is it a baklava that has all those like sweet layers? I just want like just superstar, or just cover them all in honey and then just cover them with pistachios and eat that.
You're like a fucking idiot on Reddit who's like, you know what would be great on ice cream? Bacon. Hella epic bacon. Bacon on everything. Like, bacon doesn't go on everything, motherfucker.
The equivalent is like I'm eating a bowl of ice cream. I'm like, do you know what would be sick on this? Like a sprinkle of brown sugar. It's like, dude, that's already too sweet, man. Like it's like, nah, dude, but sugar's fucking sick. Like, give me more of it, motherfucker. Like,
no, you need like, you know, some okay, I'm not going into this, but yeah, you need a mix of flavors. You can't have. Okay, I'm not gonna carry out the analogy. I keep wanting to, but yeah. Yeah, fucking bacon on ice cream.
Step into my octagon, dude. Step into the jungle of like a food analogies. I literally want a bowl of sugar scott. That's all I want.
Can we talk just very briefly about how Magisk was like, you know, fucking amazing? Because I just thought that he really deserves it. We haven't talked about Astralis at all. So in this major,
every single episode, it's just about Astralis.
It's like obligatory. Like, like when I was writing my article, it was just like, how many words do I have to say praising Astralis before it gets to the point? Like, I had to be about like half to a third, you know, like, you can't shit on all the teams for being worse than Astralis, but you can shit on them for being, you know, stupid.
Yeah, I just like to point out that like he was ranked number 7 in HLTV's rankings last year. I had him, I think, at 4th. And the interview after this, it's like, oh, how come you're MVP of this tournament? It's like, oh, you know, I just really focused on my individual level this tournament. So, like, I finally started practicing, and now I'm the best player in the world.
Oh, I thought I messed this up. Apparently, I thought Zipnix was the MVP. Maybe that was Thorin that gave him the MVP.
Yeah, because they both had incredible tournaments. But according to HLTV, it was Magisk. But I think everyone, including Peters from HLTV, said, like, yeah, well, it's kind of a toss-up between the two. They're both amazing. But my point is that aren't you excited for this time where Magisk is going to not only be, you know, better than Dupree like he was last year, according to some of us, but he's going to be the best player on Astralis.
All right, let me sidestep your point entirely. Zipnix is like the spring of mint on top of a nice vanilla ice cream. It's like, ooh, what is this springy refreshingness in combination with these complex vanilla bean flavors? You know, like, you need that. You can't just add like a fucking dump of marshmallows onto ice cream and think that's gonna be good. That's disgusting. It's the wrong texture.
Is a marshmallow. That's all you need to know, dude. In the context of your analogy.
All right, let me just end this episode by telling you guys. You can't see my screen, but you know that where I posted the ESPN shit on this chat page, like that was all over the screen for the first 30 seconds of it. So yeah, all right, edit it all out.